Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Terrestrial Material, where we talk about the material us terrestrials are interested in. What's up? Let me get my mic in the right spot here, okay? Happy Saturday, right? How long has it been, man? 6 months? I think it's been like 6 months since we've been on this thing. What's up, Bernie Miro? How you doing, dude? Let me know in the chat if the lip sync is all right. Lips. You know, if we're doing all right on that. Like I said, it's been a little while, dude, since I've done one of these channels or one of these shows on this channel. And there's a few things that I want to go over today. There's too much, man. To be very honest with you, there's too much that we need to go over. When I started putting this thing together, I was like, okay, I'll maybe pick like 4 or 5 clips when it comes down to the Immaculate Constellation and the Matthew Brown stuff. And I was like, yeah, I should be able to grab like 4 or 5 clips and probably give a pretty good opinion on it. Like, damn, that's not going to be a thing. That's not really going to be possible with how much there is. I mean, when you really start breaking down and going through the 3 interviews that Jeremy Corbell does with him, I mean, it's 3 hours of just packed in content. There's not a whole lot of, what do you do for fun? Did you play sports growing up? What's your favorite food? Okay. They kind of left that at the door. So there's not a whole lot of that's going on. So it's actually pretty tough to clip, and there's just content throughout. But we did the best that we could on it. I think overall I got maybe 20 or 25 clips, maybe a little over than that. And I had to go back and like renumber them so I could get the order and everything right on it. But yeah, I had to take away a lot of stuff, and I'll just touch on some of that as we go through it on some of my thoughts, because there's a ton. And hopefully I'll have enough room at the end to actually be able to give my takes on some of this stuff from the week. But I don't know, like the Twitter bookmark setup that I put together is probably enough for its own show. It probably really is. So these things happen, these things happen as you're going through it. You realize that there's a lot that you want to say. So what are we doing back on YouTube here right now? Look, I've always said the channel's never officially dead. The channel was never going to be really dead. I was kind of burnt out on just doing the news like this every week and putting all the stuff together every week with the way that it was going. But there's some times where there's still things about it that are fun. And it's nice to come on here and kind of give my open opinion. I mean, the channel's here, and you can't do clips on the Twitter Spaces. And when I ended kind of doing a lot of the channel and things like that, I went over to Twitter thinking that I could do a lot of those, run those clips in my spaces because of the audio. But then, of course, the audio gets smashed, and so you can't really do that. So if there comes a moment in time where I want to say a little bit more about something and kind of give the visual aids and go through something, it's just not the place for it. So this is just always going to be the best spot to be able to do that and do it in a way that'll make sense and that looks cool. Why not? Why not do it that way? So when we start talking about Matthew Brown, the Immaculate Constellation document, we kind of have to start off, I think, with a little bit of a refresher. Now, that's not to say we're going to dive through the whole 12-page report. There's no time to do that. Like I said, I want this show to maybe go 2 hours. It might go 2.5, depending on just how I'm feeling, where we're at, and if I can squeeze some of the other news in there at that point, like I was talking about earlier. But it's probably a good start to do that. So let me clear this. And I want to pull up this document for us here. And I'm going to get on over to the big screen in a moment here. Actually, wait 1 second. Hold on. I had an issue here. I did the wrong thing that I didn't mean to do. I told myself that I wasn't going to do. And I did. I need to open up this PDF through Google Chrome. Oh, I already have it open. Okay, I already have it open. Yeah, for some reason, Edge is like... Usually, like when I open up a PDF, it goes right through Microsoft Edge, and it's been like freezing and won't let me move it or close it or whatever, what have you. So, all right, this is open. I want to be able to get onto the big screen, not the webcam big screen you guys are used to. We got a couple of new changes to channel. Not a lot, nothing crazy, but I've got a bigger full screen edition. As well as you can see down below, we have a few new of our characters and friends here. Okay, Pascagoula alien is there. Of course, you got the TR-3B down there and the Stargate. There's some new stuff. I think the Lazar, if I remember right, the Lazar sports model down the bottom right there is new. So that's there. So let's go to the all screen. Okay, this is the all screen here. I'm not going to be on this part because I want to be able to make sure you guys can really see and read this along with me. Okay, so this is the section that we're looking at. I think this is probably a good place to kind of get everything started. So what is this Immaculate Constellation? Okay, why are we even talking about this Matthew Brown guy? That's where we're going to go. So Immaculate Constellation is an unacknowledged special access program, a USAP, that's established following the public disclosure of the ATIP OSAP programs by Luis Elizondo in 2017. Now, this is probably something that you're going to want to remember. Just kind of keep it in the back of your mind as we continue to go through this, because there's going to be these moments where I'm going to kind of reflect back on people like Luis Elizondo, even David Grush, as we'll see as we continue to go. But this is kind of an interesting sticking point here to look at, okay? And continue here. It says, upon disclosure to Congress, it was determined that this USAP and its collateral information have not been lawfully reported to Congress. Well, I guess not. I guess it hasn't been. Okay. Hey, Puckoff, how you doing, dude? Oi, oi, he says. Everything should be coming in good. Good to see you. Now, this says, next part here is Immaculate Constellation's primary mission is collecting imagery intelligence on UAP, or unidentified aerial phenomena. I still like UFO better, but there you go. And ARV, RV reproduction vehicles, utilizing tasked and untasked U.S. military intelligence resources as part of a network of SAPs linked to human intelligence, which essentially what they're saying is that this is a parent program, okay, that there's other SAPs that are underneath of it. So that's that kind of stovepiping that we hear about all the time. So that's what this kind of has, a system that's below it. It's a umbrella program, if you will, okay? And where were we at? And then UAP Technologies, okay? Immaculate Constellation acts as a nexus for collecting, analyzing, and disseminating intelligence on the activities, capabilities, and locations of anomalous aerospace threats that originate from foreign or, and I think that's pretty interesting too, or unidentified sources. Okay. So essentially what it's saying is it's acting as a quarantine zone almost as well. So when intelligence is moved, whether that be imagery, video, documents, what have you, as this comes down the pipeline, what this is doing through that intelligence pipeline as it's moved, it's supposed to be going to the compartments that it's supposed to go to. This is identifying that material, quarantining it, and sequestering it into this area. Okay. If that makes sense. So now we have a little bit more of an understanding, at least a basis of what we're talking about. Okay. Now, like I said, we're not going to go all the way through this document. There's way too much to do, but there are some things that I want to point out to you as we go through it, because there's going to be also, just like the ATIP OSAP Lou Elizondo thing that I talked about earlier, that little sticking point. We'll touch back on this for my opinions on whether or not I believe that this is a real program and whether or not I believe Matthew Brown is actually a legitimate whistleblower and his content is correct. Okay. So if you look at this whole thing, we experience, he's a guy on Twitter, very nice guy. He held a 6-hour space. And this is kind of the reason why I want to also bring this up here at the very beginning, is a lot of people wonder, well, it's kind of surprised me because maybe most people haven't had a chance to really sit down and flesh through the document. But a lot of people are wondering, was there more to this Immaculate Constellation report than just the Shriver war game that we hear so much about? And we'll get into that a little bit later. But in the truth of it is, yeah, there's a lot in this. There's a lot of, there's obviously the Russian vessel scenario that's in the Shriver war game report, but there's also more of these descriptions of videos, of photos, as you can see as we'll roll down through here. All of these red lines that we're seeing on the sides, I marked these off as areas in the document that describe videos, describe intelligence here, whether that be human intelligence, conversation, the imagery, what have you. And those are all marked in red. And then some of these I would come down and I put like a triangle on, just so I had a little reference if I wanted to jump to one of these accounts or one of these descriptions that ends up being like a triangle shaped craft. Those are there. This is the or disc shaped craft. We got the little blue circle. I tried to do different colors for all of these, but I ended up running out of colors as you'll see as we go. And then we of course have the jellyfish, or some people call them the brains, that are there. This is my jellyfish. Listen, I'm not the world's greatest artist. I'm not a drawer. Okay. I can do some stuff with Photoshop, some AI stuff. I can copy, cut, paste, and design a little bit. But when it comes down to drawing, you know, that's my jellyfish. All right. But give me a break. You know, with this, it's all just for reference points. So we get it. It's a jellyfish. All right. It's not even, it's hollow right there. I don't know. It's hollow. And then of course we get down to the Tic Tac, which is just this. I guess this is how I drew the Tic Tac right here. It's just a blue circle here. That doesn't look even very Tic Tac-y. This is, yeah, I don't know. Okay, enough about these images here, but it's there. Okay, as you can take a look at. There's delineation. There's a lot that comes through this document. Okay, and it's more than just that too. I mean, they talk about obviously the different shapes and things that are observed: spheres, orbs, disc, saucer, oval, tic tac, triangle, boomerang, arrowhead, and there's irregular or organic shapes that are out there. And then there's these charts. Like there are charts that go through this. So sphere, orb, and some of this stuff, and this will kind of become a little bit more apparent later on, is that this information, it's not necessarily new. It's not really new stuff that we've never heard about. Okay, so that will come into play, I think, a little bit as we continue to go on down the line here. Tim T, what's up, buddy? How's it going? I don't know if, Tim, this is the first time you come over to the channel, man. You like my little lower third, dude? I got my little aliens down there and stuff. You know, it's fun. It's fun over here, Tim. You know, we have fun over here. You'll see me in a second, buddy. I do the webcam. I wanted to get the big screen for this document so you guys have a better chance to read it as we go. Okay, but these are all here. Often lack conventional signatures such as heat trails, electromagnetic effects on military electronics reported. So you have that for the spheres. Then you have one for discs and the saucers, and you have interesting stuff like atmospheric phenomena, visual disturbances such as shimmering air or sudden fog formation. Okay, and like, just for everybody that's tuning in here and maybe that isn't in chat, once again, do not worry. We are not going all the way through this thing. I am just simply pointing some things out that I think are going to be important for later on that we can touch back on as we go through the clips that I pulled from the interview, which once again was very difficult because there was not a lot that you could leave out, but we had to leave these things on the cutting room floor, as they say. And then irregular organic objects. So that's there. Those reports are there. Examples of defense, human intelligence reports. There's a lot. I mean, he gets into, you know, approximate numbers, maneuvered in proximity of less than 12 meters. I mean, it's detailed. It really is detailed in a lot of ways. And then also we have, you know, the big moment here that we'll get into too. Separately, additional internal records confirm the claims of Mr. Lou Elizondo regarding ATIP OSEP's mission activities and findings. Additional documents support the exceptional character and credibility of Mr. Elizondo. Okay, this is a big one. There'll be, I think, probably a theme, as they say, as I go through this, that you'll notice, maybe quickly. But listen, this is my take. Okay. This is my take on it. Your mileage is just probably going to vary when it comes to this entire program, Immaculate Constellation, Matthew Brown. Your takes are probably going to vary from mine. And then also you're probably going to say, man, you know, he didn't have this in that clip, or he should have pulled this clip, or what about this part of the interview? I'm just going to miss things. All right. We'll go back to the screen a little for this. I'm just going to simply miss things because there's just, like I mentioned earlier, way too much to go over at one time. Okay. But we're going to do our damnedest, as they say. Okay. So that's a little bit of a breakdown of that. Like I said, I got notes, guys. This is, this is dense. This is dense, boys. All right. Okay. Let's get resettled here, because we're going to have to lock in down here a little bit. Let me move this. We got our bookmarks here. We'll drop this down. So that's there. So I guess what we can do is we can jump into the first clip. Once again, there's 13 clips we're going to go through. If we don't get something, we don't get to what you want, I apologize, but this is the way we're going to do it. So let's get this full screen, and then we'll jump over to the usual big screen that you guys know, huh? The usual one. You get me, and you get the video. All right. I don't know. I don't think you need me. I don't think I'm much to look at, but I'm here. I got the backwards hat and shit. I mean, you know. So this is the first clip. So this is called Why Talk Now. All right. And the reason why when I pulled these clips, I really wanted to make sure that we got clips that were not just the information about Immaculate Constellation or the program, but we get at least a little bit more of Matthew Brown. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning, we don't, you know, there's not conversation about, you know, whether or not he went bowling or whether he was, whether he's had other hobbies. They don't ask him his favorite food, things like that. But so I wanted to get a little bit more of him and his feelings on things, so we could kind of round out the shape. You always want to be able to round it out as best you can. So this is the first clip that we're going to go over. Now, I have put in the description below, and this is probably a really good point to bring this up, or spot to bring this up, that is. All 3 of the episodes, all 3 parts of this interview, the links are in the description. Okay? I'm going through these clips. Like I said, there's 13. Hopefully Corbell and them don't kill me over this. Look, I am a small channel. I am a speck in the world of UFO YouTube. Okay? We're not playing the whole dang thing here. Hopefully we don't get killed on. I think this is fair use. We'll talk as we go. But I still got to play these clips, and they look really good. So let's go with the first one. He's going to talk to us a little bit about why he's talking now. And if the audio is a little bit loud, we'll adjust it as we go. I mean, I can watch the level so we can see really where we're at. But okay. You put the little heart in the chat there, Tim, with the little guy. All right, dude, let's do this damn thing. What am I doing?
Time. I think I understand why. You're explaining something philosophical, what you believe about the secrecy, just personally. Like, what is the step for you to do this? Like, why? I need to understand why. Why are you telling this to everybody now?
There's no short answer. It's something, you know, I have many, not even competing, but parallel motivations. But why now? Look out at the world. Look inside our country. We are not headed to a good future.
You're concerned.
I am.
Explain the concern.
Ultimately, my biggest fear is what humanity will do to itself out of fear and greed, and what we have done. And we have built a prison around ourselves. It's invisible, but it's not complete. And there is still time to maybe alter our trajectory, have a different future. May not be the best one that we had hoped for, but it's going to be damn sight better than what they have planned for us.
Okay. So that's interesting. No, that's interesting. Give me 1 second here too. I'm going to pop this over here for a moment. So yeah, that's really interesting. Right. And so like when he talks about that, I really like he doesn't come across as bad with that. I can't disagree with like his philosophy of why he comes out now. That seems like it's pretty good. No, seems like it's pretty good. So I'm not going to go against that when it comes down to that. Let me go back to the webcam here. All right. Perfect. So yeah, I can't disagree with or I can't fault him on what he's saying, how he feels about why he's coming out now. It sounds good. And the first time, honestly, that I went through this, it seemed pretty legitimate to me anyway. You know, it seemed like a pretty legitimate reason at that point. So let's go ahead and get ready for our next clip here. This is Why Talk Now. I'll label these out. So it's definitely interesting. Okay. This clip is the video quality that has been seen. Okay. This is the video quality that has been seen. And he's going to break down that a little bit. And I think this is important because this is going to give us a little bit more of a basis, I think, of just what he's been able to see, like really give us a little bit deeper into a look of what we can expect as far as like how do I want to say it? You know what? I'm not even gonna try to say it. I'm just going to play the clip and we'll go over it.
Technically, the first true like military footage that I saw was that Tic Tac video and the Go Fast video, and I think there was one other else, the Gimbal video that all came out in 2017. Granted, I didn't see those on military systems, but just being precise here.
Yeah.
And so things that I saw after that kind of looked like all that, but just much more duration. The videos, it's the internet, whether it's secret or not, there's compression, there's upload and file sizes. So some things are crystal clear, but it's only 15 seconds. Some things you can see 45 minutes of something moving around, but it's kind of blurry because that's a lot of data.
So you've seen crystal clear at times videos of what appear to be, would you say, non-human intelligence made craft? I mean, what you see evidence that the rest of the world doesn't get to see. Mm-hmm. That starts happening.
Yeah. Nothing in those videos necessarily proves it's extraterrestrial or non-human.
So nothing in those videos necessarily proves extraterrestrial or non-human. Okay. And when you go back and you look through that document again, like the document itself, like the crafts, like the technology that's described, it's exotic for sure. Right. It definitely is. But I still don't see anything in that document. I agree with him on that it definitely doesn't lean in towards it has to be ET or it's some form of NHI. It's not really there. Right. So he's kind of admitting that at this point, which I think later on, as we go through more of these clips, it's kind of weird that he has such a neutral stance on this from the descriptions of what he was able to kind of see behind the scenes, because he has some wild beliefs later on that, I mean, we would have to have more information to back up at that point. But yeah, we'll go ahead and continue with the rest of this clip.
It certainly is anomalous, exotic, and unexplainable.
And advanced.
Yes.
Beyond our capabilities that you know of?
I don't know.
So he said, beyond our capabilities that we know of, I don't know. So he's not even sure. He's not sure. Seems a little strange. Tim says, like, giving his world perspective, is this something he saw in the files or just his personal belief? Yeah, it's a good way to put it, dude. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, so that's why I said when the first time I kind of went through this, it almost to me didn't even seem like he was very sure of even what he's seeing, and that's a weird one. It brings up a couple of questions for me when it comes down to it. So now the next part that I thought was pretty important that I didn't want to leave out is when he starts talking about David Grush, and I think in this clip he actually goes over a little bit of Elizondo. I think he starts talking about a little Elizondo at the end of this, but he starts talking about David Grush being volatile, can't say his name, people are getting fired, things of this nature. I think that's important to bring up because I think, once again, the connections with Elizondo and the connections with David Grush and him, and we even learned throughout this interview, and I don't think I pulled the clip for it because I could probably just tell you. We learned that Schellenberger, or that Grush had led Matthew Brown to Corbell. Okay, that's how we learned that. So there is that connection that's there too. But you'll see this theme as it goes, and it tends to, a lot of what Matthew Brown talks about, some of the bigger points, they kind of inflate and they bring credibility to Elizondo and to Grush, and that could be because they're real, and it could be because it's deserved, but it could also be because we're looking for a way to inflate the situation. We're looking to inflate credibility to continue to push a certain narrative forward. So we'll go over this clip for you guys.
So what do you mean if you mention certain whistleblowers? Who?
David Grush.
You can't mention David Grush in certain professional settings or you are fucked.
Yeah, if you're not fired, you are in for a very rough time, is my understanding.
Elizondo?
I didn't hear Elizondo as a no-go word.
Saying David. So what do you mean?
And that's another weird thing too, is he says that that's what he heard, that you could be fired over that. That's what he heard. He's never seen that. He's never seen anyone get fired before. Right? And then the other interesting thing, if we touch back and when we were looking at the document itself, the big basis of why the program Immaculate Constellation and all of this even exists was because of the ATIP OSAP story that came out in 2017 that was tied to Elizondo. So why would he not be? Why would he not be volatile? I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's a really big hole in his story for me as well. Just doesn't really make any sense. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure when David Grush came out and he was saying all sorts of stuff, biologics, recovered craft, you know, the cover up, he's speaking about all these things. Of course, people that he used to work with, and I'm sure around the intelligence community, talked a lot of shit about him. Of course. I spoke to military people and around 2017, 2018, when those videos and everything came out, and they were people that were saying, dude, those videos are fake, man. We don't have any that's all bullshit. Okay. I've heard military people say that. We've heard other people in the military talk about that. So it's of no surprise to me that that would be said. Whether or not his name is volatile and you can get fired over it, I don't think that really makes, like, that doesn't cause that, right? It's just people talk shit. That's what they do. You know what I'm saying? They're going to speculate, even on something like an R server, right? Those forum chats where those videos have been linked around and moved around. So it doesn't shock me. So I don't know. He doesn't have anything that he can show that really proves that. So like I said, it's a hole for me. It's a hole. The fourth clip here, we're going to roll first exposure. So this is a spot that I did think was important to look at as well. So this is going to go over, and I think it's a minute long on this clip. He's going to talk about the first time he runs into this Immaculate Constellation document, the Shriver war game. Okay. The folder. And I believe in this clip too, if I remember right, he talks about a little bit about his job and how, like, what that area was like. If he doesn't, I'll come back and touch on it. But like I said, there's 13 clips. I can't remember exactly what I got in each one of them, but we'll fill it in as we go. But this is his first exposure. Matthew Brown's going to talk about that for us.
So the first exposure, or the exposure to Immaculate Constellation, happened on a shared server that was shared by all the offices in OSD. What I was doing at the time was opening files that were clearly misfiled and either sorting them to our office's, part of that server, or putting them in their own box to be sorted by other
responsible your jobs.
I mean, this is more like volunteer duty, but yes.
So because you're a workaholic and you're curious and you read a lot.
Now he talks about that as a side job. So this wasn't really his main gig, which is also very interesting. But he's all about taking these folders that are misplaced, these documents that are misplaced, and putting them back where they should be. Now, I know it's kind of a stretch, and I don't have a clip that talks about, I don't think, about where he was doing this. He was at the Office of Secretary of Defense, okay? The old stomping grounds of Christopher Mellon, okay? And this is around the time of 2018. As we all know, obviously, as the document relates to as well, that after 2017, 2018 comes, right? And who was really, really involved with along that process with Elizondo, ATIP, OSAP, and bringing all that story to light with the New York Times? Christopher Mellon was. Okay. Now, I know it's a stretch, but I think it's very possible, and probably a reason why this document, this file was lost or put where it shouldn't have been. And it didn't have any SAP markings on it at all either, which is another red flag. But it's very possible that that document, because Mellon was at OSD, he probably still has friends there. Someone could have put that file onto a server as bait. As bait. Not bait for specifically Matthew Brown, because, I mean, they might not even know who the hell he is. But they know that maybe it's like if they plant that seed, it's a seed that you could plant. At some point, maybe they get lucky. Maybe somebody comes across it and talks about it and becomes a Matthew Brown. Now, do they need him? Do they need that document to come out? No. But it's just like one of those, what ifs? You know, we'll put this out there. If it doesn't come up, no big deal. If it comes up, could be a big win. Could be a big win. So I think that's interesting. That ties back to them. Very, very interesting. I'll continue with the clip because I believe the reason why I played the rest of this clip is because you can kind of see another thing I wanted to comment on with the interview itself was that George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell are very leading. They're very leading. They love to do a lot of talking for you. Okay. So I'm going to put this in play for you guys.
You come across a file that really is what leads us to being here today. It's the Shriver file.
Yeah. So it was labeled 2018 Shriver War Game.
Okay, I am incorrect. That's not what we're going to get at right here. So he's going to talk about the Shriver War Game. I'm pretty sure we have that part of the clip, though. But he's talking about the Shriver War Game right here.
Might have been brief or something else, but that's it. There's nothing about that that screams, it's a very interesting thing. In fact, usually a lot of war game briefs are pretty boring. So there's nothing that stood out about it.
Accidental exposure for you.
100%.
So 100% accidental, right? That's why I look at it and I go, maybe that's possible. Maybe that's what that was there for. All right, let me jump over because I'm gonna drop this really fast, and then I want to grab since we brought up the Shriver War Game. Okay, now the Shriver War Game itself, I believe I have a clip of him talking about it, but it sounds very much, well, I guess I'll just wait to get to that. But David Grush is involved with this Shriver War Game. All right, how is he involved, you say? Okay, we'll go full screen for it here. He's involved. I have David Grush's, I believe this is like his resume or what have you that was brought up here. And if we go down here to the bottom, and I was looking for this, I got to give credit to Jess on Twitter because she was the one who originally brought this to light. I didn't see anybody else talk about it before her. And I kept looking through this damn document. I couldn't find this. I don't know why. But it was sent to me, and then I went and just pulled up the original one and just clipped it myself, grabbed the screenshot myself so you guys could see this. This is NRO Senior Intelligence Officer, USAF Reserve, leading director's briefing team of 30 military members, agency-wide presidential briefing coordinator during personal storage. So we know that Grush had that, right? We know he dealt with the presidential daily brief. He led the NRO, NSDC, DOD, and SAT program portfolio security officer, Shriver War Game, HLC advisor. I think that's higher learning committee. I think that's what that stands for. So he was involved with this. Okay. He was involved with the Shriver War Game. And then also we have that tie back into Grush has spoke to him. And then obviously Grush sent him to Corbell. So we have another link, okay, to this document, to David Grush. And if you really want to get down the road, you can just link Grush to Elizondo and Mellon, and the circle of reporting continues and continues. Okay, so that's something that I think is pretty interesting for it as well. All right, we'll go ahead and kill that, and we'll move over to our next clip here. This next clip, we're going to talk a little bit about the Shriver War Game itself. As you can see, it's labeled down here as Interloper, because when he tells this story, and this is yet again another link back, I think, to Elizondo, is he talks about this Russian vessel that's out in the Pacific, and the whole point of the Shriver War Game was that we were observing this fleet, and a triangle craft appears in above these Russian vessels. They don't really make any reaction to it. They seem like they're even almost ready for it. It's pretty interesting. So he'll give his little explanation on it, and we'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about it.
I don't know what that is, but
I don't.
This is a pretty interesting image here.
It is. Right? And then the text that accompanies it describes the incident.
And what can you tell us about that?
The summary of that is just how it unfolded. I should actually back up and say the image itself was unique. This isn't by a plane or a satellite. It looks to be a image pretty close to the waterline. So something that to me read as.
And by the way, this is an image that he's seeing. It's not a video. I mean, that's not how I took it. When you say image is image to me. It's not a video, but continue.
We have a clandestine submersible asset close by this fleet, and it's taking pictures, trying to stay unnoticed. And so, yes, in the description, it basically lays out what occurred that night, which was that our collection assets were there in area monitoring Russian naval vessels. Not sure what they're doing there, but they've been hanging out in the middle of the ocean in this place, apparently for a few days. Keep an eye on them. And this night, while they are observing the Russian vessels, a large black triangle materializes or decloaks or something. The point is it did not move. It appeared directly above these ships, probably no more than 200 meters, pretty close. And interestingly, as noted in the report itself, there was no visible reaction from these vessels from what would almost certainly be considered a hostile approach.
What do you take away from that? They didn't notice it, or they're not upset about it, or they don't know what to do with it, or what?
So the implication also in the text describing it was, or sorry, I should say the analysis in the text was that the Russian Navy had foreknowledge that this vehicle would appear in that area of the ocean, and they were there specifically to either collect on it themselves or to interact with it in some way.
And that sounds exactly like Interloper, the program that Jay Stratton and Elizondo wanted to put together. And they essentially put the plan together for it, but it got shot down supposedly, right? And the whole idea is that these crafts, these NHI, these UAPs, UFO, I still like UFO better. They're attracted to nuclear material. Okay, nuclear anything. That kind of you could almost say nuclear anything. But what they wanted to get all these ships out in the Pacific Ocean and then draw these things in, bring all these warships in with all these nuclear warheads and things like that, and bring it in. So it sounds very similar. I mean, what can you do? It's something that I at least want to draw a light to. Does it mean that this was all written by Elizondo? And no, it doesn't. I don't have proof of that, but I'm just saying, damn, that's weird. It's a weird connection, right? And you're talking about something like this program Interloper. I mean, this was surmised prior to 2017. This was all prior to Lou leaving the government. This is prior to Lou, and then obviously Mellon's even relationship. And so when you look back at that, it's like there was time for that to have been put there. It could have been put there. Remember, Christopher Mellon, at least if you want to go it off of Elizondo's book, Christopher Mellon was briefed by Elizondo. He's the biggest reason why biggest reason why Mellon kind of switched from saying in 2016 that there was nothing to any of this. And then he meets Lou, and Lou tells him, hey, go get all the tickets, go get all the clearances, and I'll come show you the goods. Mellon supposedly does that in record time, within a week, briefs him, boom, 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 boom. So the time frame for this to be a planted story, for it to be rewritten as it's there. Not saying that it is the thing, but it's there. You can't argue that.
Any indication that it might be theirs, that they knew it's going to be there because they control it?
Not in that document. And I haven't seen anything to make me think that they controlled that particular craft, but didn't see anything to the contrary either.
Yeah, which also is like, if this is Interloper, right? We weren't controlling it with Interloper either. That was the whole theme. So that's there, right? Interesting enough. Okay. Now this was this next clip here. I labeled this one up the ladder. Up the ladder here. Because this was in the second interview. And I think this was one of the first moments where I was really like, okay, this is not making sense to me. The Matthew Brown story. Okay. The chain that or the ladder, I guess, because we use ladder. Let's just stick with ladder, right? The ladder that he climbs as he goes from boss to his boss's boss to the boss's boss. Okay. The reason why that persists doesn't really fully make sense to me. Now, I will leave this little caveat to this. Like I mentioned earlier, the editing on this is very tight and it's very directional between these 3 episodes. Could we have lost a little bit in the editing process that would make this process make more sense? Sure. I don't think it's likely. I don't think that's the case. But maybe. So I'll be fair here. All right. But he's going to describe to you the process of actually, he runs into this file, goes through it, starts getting training on spillage. Okay, spillage is classified material that gets put in the wrong place, and they got to deal with it going forward. How to deal with that spillage going forward. So he gets training on it, and this is when he has this moment. Okay, we'll go ahead and play this for you. This is 4 minutes, dude. I didn't know it was 4 minutes. I'm gonna have to skip around a little bit. We'll go with it as we go.
Our office gets a training on or refresh training, but this was new in my career, so my first time on what to do in cases of spillage for sap material. Okay.
So he's brand new. I'll pause it right here real quick. So he's brand new at this, right? He's a little nervous. Makes sense though, a little bit what he's saying, about to say here a little bit further. So he's a little bit new, a little nervous.
And I realized, well, no matter how weird this has all the hallmarks of what you guys just said is a big fucking deal. Yeah. So, I can either pretend like I didn't open and read this thing 80 times and hope that IT doesn't notice that either, or I can report it myself. So I did that, or I tried to do that.
Okay, so the motivation here, from what I'm taking, is to cover his own ass. Okay? That's the motivation that I'm getting here.
You tried to report it. You read it a bunch because it's fascinating, and then you try to report it. So what does that look like when you try to report that? What'd you do?
So the first time, I went just quietly to my immediate supervisor, a retired Army colonel.
So you go to your supervisor, superior.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I gotta say, hey, I gotta show you something in our closet. Our whole office is a skiff, but inside the skiff is another tiny skiff.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool, by the way. I thought that was kind of cool, right? The office is a skiff, and then they got the skiff within the skiff. That's pretty neat. Can't lie. When I heard that the first time, I was like, shit. You know, that's pretty badass. But yeah, continue. Sorry, Matthew. Continue.
And I think we have like a spillage things, and so I need to show it to you because this is apparently what we're supposed to do: show it to your boss. And then follow the reporting chain, and you sign a paper, and that's how it's supposed to be handled, all by the books.
And they just trained you on it, and you're like, okay, here's what I'm supposed to do.
Right, exactly. So I try to follow that while also being, quiet about it. Take him in, and he's like, okay, so show me what you found. I pull up that slide, and the first slide, just because it's so generic, gets no reaction. But then going to like maybe the second slide, or even the third slide, he's just like, okay, stop, stop. Did you read this? And I don't answer, but I just look him in the eye and I look at the screen, and I'm like, of course I read this.
That's how you know it exists.
And he definitely picked up on that. And he, the conversation ended with him saying, delete it. And he left the room, and we never spoke of it again.
Okay. So listen, if you're into something you shouldn't be, maybe you've seen some things you shouldn't have, and you're looking to go through the procedure to deal with this, and you're looking to cover your own ass on it, you just went to your boss told you how to deal with it. Okay? Delete it. Move on. Okay? At that point in time, you're clear in my book. You're clear, because if it comes up later as an issue, you can defer to your boss. Hey, this is how head guy here told me how to deal with this. All right? Now, if you want to say, well, the boss can lie and the boss can do that, you have to make a villain out of the boss, which we don't have any context to make his boss a villain at this point. This is where it kind of jumps back to the editing. If we're missing some of this, that's fine. But I like it. All I know is what you show me. That's it. So what you're showing me here is at this point in the stage of the ladder climb that we're at, we're good. We're good. This is my opinion. Okay? So we'll continue on. You think he ends it right there? Nah. Why do that? Why
He's
do that?
cutting you some slack there, in essence.
Without me knowing, yes.
Yeah.
Of course he's cutting you slack. Of course. How do you not even see that at the beginning? I would have seen that right away. Hey, delete it, move on something I'm a little bit shaky of to have been involved in. Come on, man. Come on.
You didn't read it, so you're not in any trouble. That's just ended here.
Delete it.
And also, as I came to learn, certain material you get exposed to, and you're kind of marked for life that happened, and it's probably not good for your career at a minimum.
We've seen other whistleblower friends of ours have experiences like that. They're marked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that at the time. So that happened. I sit on that for a few days. Didn't sit right with me because I'm still thinking like, well, that's not what we're supposed to do. I could do that. But supposedly everything we do on those systems, every click, every keystroke is monitored. So like, I need to self-preservation.
You already have the self-preservation. You're paranoid, brother. You're paranoid. Okay? Now, what do we talk about at the beginning of this clip? He's a little bit new to the process. He's paranoid. I don't know how else to take this other than that.
I need to keep doing the right thing here. So I go to his boss, or his boss's boss. I change my approach. I don't say what it is. I don't show it to them. I don't print it out. And I just say, ma'am, we have a spillage incident. I believe it's sap material. Could you please provide guidance on how to handle this? And
Now, wouldn't the boss's boss step back on this and say, you didn't listen to what did your boss tell you? And like, where is that part of the conversation? Does he not, that really doesn't come up? He really isn't questioned of why are you coming to me when you have a superior that you could have already have went to? Why are you coming here? We missed that part. This is where this is the biggest part of where the story really derails on me. That's why I'm spending so much time on this clip. This whole process, man. And if I'm wrong, if there's somebody that's involved in this stuff that knows way more about how this kind of ladder would work at OSD or any of this stuff, that's fine. That's fine. I'm always willing to change my mind when I'm presented with new evidence. Always. But the surface level of how a structure I feel like this would work, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but we'll continue.
so through that, I was connected to our parent office's special access program control officer. Had a meeting set up to go meet with them a few days later. That happened. I go to that meeting in a SAP-F, so where this material is supposed to be stored and handled. And this person says, okay, show me the material. So I sit down.
Round two.
Right, exactly.
You're showing the material.
I sit down, I pull it up. It's right there at the top of the shared server. So I'm not like, it's almost instant, like it's right there. I pull it up. I start scrolling through it from the bottom. I get no reaction. Then he says, okay, let me look at it. He takes my chair. He goes through, he scrolls through it. No reaction on his face. I'm watching him very closely at this point because I'm exceptionally curious about all of this. No reaction. Then he scrolls through it again, and he makes a very deliberate scene where he pauses on Lou Elizondo's slide and starts guffawing in a very non-believable.
Guffawing. I guess that means like kind of like a scoff or like a, I don't know. Why has he got to use his big school words, Tim? Why doesn't he use normal words like us, like people like us, you know? Big fancy words, guffawing. What is that? That's like the Alex Jones. I'm going to give you a quick gestalt, huh? you know, just use the dumb words for people like me. You know, go ahead. I'm just kidding.
Way and saying somebody's having a joke. You don't need to worry about this. You can go. And that's not the reaction I was expecting. I was expecting to, at the very least, sign a paper, right? Saying, this incident happened.
Yeah.
Reported it, signed it. It's done. So, I try to ask him, like, are you sure? Like, do I need to sign anything? He's like, nope, you can go. And so I left that room and never, ever had anything about that incident come up again.
Except,
hey, good enough for me, Tim. Would have been good enough for me. Wouldn't it have been good enough for you? What do you think in the chat? Would that have been good enough for you? If you were paranoid that you were going to get in trouble, you got your boss, you got your boss's boss's boss telling you what to do with it. Forget it. Move on. You're good to go. Good enough for me, man. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And once again, the motivation that I am seeing, that I am led to believe, in my opinion, through the interview, is simply to cover his tracks that he got into this file. We don't have a whistleblower motive yet. He's not sitting here saying that, look, I think this is alien stuff and I think they're trying to delete it because it's a cover up and about. There's none of that. Is that the editing problem? Is that a Corbell issue? You tell me. But I don't see that there. Okay? All I know is what you show me. So it was good enough for me. There's 6 seconds left. We'll go through this. Jeremy, don't get mad. Don't strike my channel over this, buddy. This is good. This is fun. Come on. It's fair use. It's transformative work. Leave me alone.
immediately you went and checked again for the file.
Yeah, I went upstairs and I went to see what had happened.
Why? Why would you go back and look for the file again? Let me play that again. One more time for the cheap seats. Okay?
It's done. So
It was done.
you know, I try to ask him, like, are you sure? Like, do I need to sign anything? He's like, nope, you can go. And so I left that room and never, ever had anything about that incident come up again.
Except immediately you went and checked again for the file.
Yeah, I went upstairs and I went to see what it.
Hey, I thought, when I first started this whole thing, I thought I was going to get fucked over. You know what I'm saying? So I went through the whole chain of everything. I got everything. I cleared. I got myself out of trouble. And then I said, yeah, I'll just go fuck myself again, It's like, come on, bro. Come on. That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Why would you go back again? I get that he's paranoid, but he's paranoid about a paper trail, a click trail, maybe not paper trail, but a digital trail. That's what he's worried about. So why go make another one? I don't know. If I was him, I would have took the initial alley-oop from my boss, dude. The boss, he gave him the alley-oop, dude. And that was it. And and at the end of the day, no matter what, he could always fall back on that. And if his boss lies, I mean, okay, that's another story for another time. There's nothing you can do about that. We can't even get into, we can't even speculate. Because like I said, you got to make him a villain, but that doesn't make any sense to me, man. I can't get on board with that. Oh, yeah, I used to have the terrestrial material image back here. This is the Destiny 2 image here. I like that. It's clean. Really nice. I guess I just noticed that because it's been months and I realized that's the background I got going on. Okay. So now we're going to get into a clip where there's a little bit more of an interesting moment here. We don't have a whole lot of detail. There's actually, there's a little bit of, there's differing opinions on what he's talking about here. Who could be involved with what he's about to talk about here? But he's going to talk about this whistleblower fund and his interaction. And I thought this was kind of another interesting moment. And you could say, well, it's interesting to you because of, the way you're kind of viewing this whole thing. Yeah, sure. Maybe it's not interesting to you, but I think it was something that should be important to bring in. So we're going to play this clip for you. This is what happens with him in the whistleblower fund. Okay.
Where do things start going for me? What's the phrase here? More serious. Mm-hmm. Is after Congress, after speaking to Congress as a whistleblower, I continued to interact with this person who was trying, or at least they told me they were trying to start a fund for whistleblowers to help get people out of the legacy program who wanted to speak but couldn't because they were both afraid for their life and their livelihood.
Okay, so the time frame, and I don't know if I have the spot where he talks about it, but it's late 23, I believe. So you've got the UAP Disclosure Fund was December. I believe it was December of 23 when that really officially kind of jettisoned out there. So I think that you have that connection. Plus, you already have Grush. You have these Elizondo ties that are potentially there. I mean, this stuff all kind of leads back. And so maybe you could say, well, you're just kind of leading yourself down to believe that. Maybe other people have insinuated that it could be Jason Sands. Because at least when you remember, if you do remember, Jason Sands, when he first came out, well, I guess when he came out in the space and he started really talking with his name. I mean, I was on that Goof On panel where he came out with a different name and he was talking about his influence with, or the time he spent with Grosh and the UEP task force. There was a lot of like messiness that went along with that. He was also starting a fund for whistleblowers. So maybe that's there. I tend, and we'll get to I think it might even be the next clip. I don't really like lean into that because of how Matthew Brown starts to talk about what kind of stirred him up again and what kind of brought him to write this article or this report, not article, but report in the first place. I think it leans more towards UAPDF, in my opinion. So we'll go ahead and let him finish playing that. But that's what we're looking at. A couple of options that are there.
Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, there's something I can help with. Good at writing paper. We'll make this organization. I can contribute there. And so the honeymoon phase of.
Now he does say something that's kind of weird that I didn't catch until today. He says, "We'll make that organization." Now he could have just been said just as a term, you know, we're going to do that. We're going to be a part of it. We'll do that. But it is kind of weird. It does make it sound like he has a bigger role in it. And when it comes to the UAPDF, I don't know how really a big of a role he would really have. So maybe you could push back against me on my take on that with that. And if you did want to read into that, I thought that was kind of weird on the second time through. So maybe, you know, it's not that does make it sound more like it's him and Jason Sands kind of getting together, right? You could buy that a whole lot more with the will build it, right? Yeah, I don't know, just a thought, because you know we're really getting into the clips here.
You know, I spoke my piece, and now it looks like I'm helping the good guys, and things aren't that serious. Continues after August of 2023.
Okay, so after August, he does mention that, so it's post, okay, post August, post Grush. Post Grush. Yeah, I should just go back to say, I should just start saying Grush, man. I know there's no chance in hell that Elizondo started saying Grush because of me. There's no way. But I swear though, no one complained about how Jason Sands said Grush instead of Grush as much as I did. Maybe he's got a little thing out for me where he just wants to, in his own mind, he says, you know what, I'll say Grush just to piss that kid off. I'm sure it's not, but it's still interesting. So the next clip here,
so sort of
is where he kind of gets stirred up. Okay, this is really more of about the origins of why this report got wrote to begin with. Okay, because he goes to Congress and he talks to them, and he hopes that they're taking notes and all of these things, which we'll find out that they supposedly didn't take him very serious. But if you think about it, with Grush out there, you know, with everything he was saying, biologics and everything else, maybe they were more worried about Grush at the time. But we'll talk maybe a little bit more about that as the clip goes on. Here you go.
what happens next is the UAPDA fails.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, we get word it's going to fail.
Right.
And this person tells me that Congress needs people to start fires.
Right.
Okay. That's what leads me to think it's not like Jason Sands. I mean, because Jason Sands know behind the scenes the UAPDA was going to fail. Sure. But when you start talking about that kind of knowledge, that seems like it's coming more from the UAPDF. A little bit more of a connected source. Because you got to remember, Jason Sands, still no one's really come out, and not that I can think off the top of my head, maybe really recent and I missed it. But when Jason Sands' whole story was getting big and he was really rolling, no one really backed him. Grush didn't back him. Elizondo really didn't speak his name. I mean, Jason had talked about having a dinner with Elizondo, but there was all these photos that Elizondo would take when he would go out last year to go to the bar, have some drinks or whatever, have dinner. And there was never any Jason Sands and Elizondo photo. So that's what also makes me kind of lean back more towards Disclosure Fund again, if that makes sense. Okay. And then he says, you know, we got to stir things up in Congress. That just doesn't sound like something, I mean, maybe Jason Sands could have said that, but it seems like that priority, that big push to stir up and get things moving, it feels more UAPDF to me.
Try to save the UAPDA. I ask him, are you serious? Is Congress has told you to ask people to make some noise and try to save this thing? That person told me yes.
See, and that sounds more like it's somebody that's in talking to Congress on the regular. On the regular. Could be Elizondo. He's been down there. He's been down there. We'll continue.
And so then I started trying to find some media personalities who could potentially be trusted.
And I'll say one last thing on this. I hate how he doesn't say who it is. I really wish that he would. He's got his reasons, whatever, I'm sure. I really wish he would we could start getting these names more. We need more details. We need way more detail on this stuff than we're getting. And I just don't really see a reason to not say who it is. Who cares who you spoke to? Give us some more clarity. That's what we're looking for out of whistleblowers. We're looking for as much clarity as we can possibly get. And I'll kind of reiterate that as we go on to the other clips going down here. Because there is a moment throughout this, or I think it's part in the third interview, where it kind of touches back on that, the not having enough information and that we need more. But we'll continue here.
one of my next steps, which was, well, now I got to get something cleared. But then set back in a different way, which was, well, shit, we still have all these people apparently who are in danger. There's no help from the government. There's no help from Congress. There's no help from Arrow. There's no help from people who say.
And by the way, there's another thing that I want to quickly make a mention of. When you look at all of this entire Immaculate Constellation, his interview and everything, there is a clear sides situation in this. It is all pro Elizondo and crew and all negative Kirkpatrick and Arrow. It's very, very sided that way. And that also kind of weirds me out a little bit too. So when you see him react to, yeah, Arrow, and I don't think Arrow's great. I have problems. I have problems with them too. But it's just this theme that we're seeing. And obviously he's stirred up. You know, they got him amped up. Why wouldn't he have wrote the report before? So he only wrote the report because he's getting juiced up, jacked up from the outside. That's weird to me. Could it mean nothing? Sure. But to me, it's strange. I don't know. That's like I said, your mileage may vary, but we'll continue with the clip.
They care about humanity, but their actions don't bear that out. So back to square one. And for me, square one is going back and re-engaging with Congress. So I reach out.
I'm going to move in my chair now.
Yeah, I guess this would be winter of 24, 23, around there. Back to my sissy connection. And that person, I learned, had since moved on, and he connected me to the current current staff member for Sissy who's handled this. Arranged a meeting in a few months because I told them, hey, I'm going to just
I will say this, that's unfortunate for him, right? The original person he got to speak to and reach out to and started kind of telling all this story is just out of there. like that sucks, dude. I'll give him that. That's pretty shitty if that's the way they went down.
Well, I asked, like, hey, did you get any of my testimony? The answer was no. Or, at least that was the claimed answer. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, did you get any notes? Like, I know he took notes. Did you get notes of what I said? Nah. So I was, okay, you know what? I'm going to write this all up for you guys. So you have it and you can't lose it. And you're going to guarantee to me that this is not just going to stay with Sissy. It is going to go to Sask, and it is going to go to Hask, and it is going to go to Hipsy, like it was promised before, but never did.
Now, he doesn't sound like the paranoid guy anymore. He sounds like he's telling people what's good, right? He's saying, this is what you're going to do. I'm not asking you anymore. This is what you're going to do. So I understand you can make that argument to me and say, well, no, man, listen, somebody didn't fire him up to do this. He really wrote this thing because, you know, they didn't have his stuff. I understand that, but I still think that you have to look at motivation. You have to look at his emotion. That's coming from an outside source. If he wasn't told initially, we got to stir things up. I don't know if this comes into play, and I don't know if there is any, because we just don't, but I'll speculate it. I don't care. Who knows while he was writing that what influence he had, because the connections are there. They're there. The influence is there. Right? You have Grush influence. You have Elizondo influence. It's possible, okay, that there was a little funny business going on. Okay, it's possible. All I'm saying. That's the whole clip on that. So yeah, it's food for thought. Okay, it's food for thought. I tend to think that there's some weirdness about that whole situation. Okay, now he does talk about. Okay, in this clip, he says, and it's titled "All My Words." Okay, and he's going to talk about the document, essentially how it was written, his story. Now, if there was some behind the scenes, hidden hand stuff going on, I'm sure he probably wouldn't tell us. He probably wouldn't. Maybe he would. Maybe he's telling the truth here. But this is an interesting clip, and he talks about the drafting of the document and who, like, the information, how it came along. Here you go.
Author of what the world knows as the Immaculate Constellation Report. This is a report based upon a field report, based upon your investigation, what you've discovered, trying to do the right thing, bringing it to the people that need to see it because it was so hard, even though they're asking for you, to get it to them. So just to be really clear for the fundamentally for people, Immaculate Constellation report, what was submitted into Congress onto congressional record, which we fought together to get that done, is your words.
He's got to slide that in there. Corbell's doing everything he can to try to not go 0-2 on this bad boy.
It's not some government Pentagon report like it was misrepresented by Nancy Mason Congress.
Not at all. All my words, 100% authored by me.
Okay, so it's all his words. He's saying authored by him, right? But now, what does that mean? We just got to take his word for it. We just got to take his word for it. Okay? It's not what we want. It's not what we want. Okay? We want the goods. I don't want to have to take anybody's word anymore. Jesus, it's all we've been doing. Well, it's all we've done for a long time. Okay. So he's saying, I think that's at least an important clip to put out there, even though it could, you know, push back against my theory on it, that maybe it all isn't all his words. Okay. Or at least if it's his words based off of a planted document, right? A planted situation, allegedly. Okay. I at least want to leave that out there. Listen, I push back against myself, guys. I hope this is one of the things that you enjoy whenever I do these episodes. Or maybe just in general with this channel, is I do like to be fair about it. I'll push back against my own critiques. All right? And I am going to say allegedly a lot. I see Tim's laughing because, as you know, Tim, it gets pretty wild out there in the UFO land. Okay? And there's a lot of people that are getting a lot of letters, you know, some phone calls maybe. I think we're actually going to have enough time to go over some of the news that I want to, because we're at an hour and there's only a couple of these clips left. There's 4 of them left, dude. So we'll be able to go over some of that here. Thank you guys for hanging out today. Like, share, subscribe. all that shit. Yeah, and I've been swearing more on this channel. Look, I gotta have some fun with this channel, man. You know, this is free 99 entertainment over here. Hit the like, it's free. All right, let's go to the next clip. Other bullets. Now, I don't have the clip. I was looking for it, man, and maybe I went over it in 2x speed and I didn't notice it. But I think he makes a statement talking about how all other people that are inside the U.S. government that have these secrets, that know what's going on, they need to come forward. It's like about oath or duty. You know, maybe that was Corbell. Shit. It could have been No. I think it was Matthew Brown, and Corbell retweeted it is what it was. Because the way that it came off, I feel like if you weren't in the military, it kind of would have been kind of cringe, honestly. I feel like military people could like call out other military people for, you know, telling them, hey, you know, you got to stand up for what you kind of signed up for and what you put your oath for. If you're not in the military and you're doing that, that's kind of weird. I don't know. At least to me, it's kind of weird. But he ends up at some point in this interview, and I think it's in the third part, where he makes this kind of call to action to these other people. And he says, you got to come forward. You got to come. And now's the time. This is your oath. This is your duty. Okay. Now, I understand that. Okay. But he's asking them to come on forward and put themselves on the line. Okay. The problem I have with that is because he's still holding things back. He's going to ask other people to come put it all on the line. But when he comes out, he's still going to hold things back. That's why this is called Other Bullets. And you'll see why when George Knapp talks about it, there are other sections. There are other parts, bits of information or knowledge that he has still not revealed. God, that's typical ufology, is it not? That's so typical. That's kind of a Corbell move. Like the jellyfish video. Wait till you see that other video, though, where it comes in the water and it goes out. But wait, there's more. This is ufology. So we're going to play the clip. I've talked too much, but I got to fill in here. I don't want to get killed on the damn copyright here. Okay, so we'll go.
But you say you could say more. Just explain that.
When I wrote this document, I've kind of given my state of mind and the measures I took to protect it. I'm also, familiar with ways that information can be extracted, that passwords and encryption don't matter. So I didn't write everything down.
So there are other bullets left to fire if you needed to.
Yeah.
George Knapp with the bullets. Love that, dude. He comes in with that entertainment, right? Other bullets left to fire. It's kind of like the Greer line of "There's a bullet with your name on it." They love it, dude. The bullet that's coming after you, the bullets left to fire. Bullets are popular in ufology, man. They're popular in the sayings and things that we have that are out and about. So that's there, okay? And this is just always what happens. There's other things. There's still more to come. Listen, if you have the smoking gun, bring it out. Like, this is what people care about at this point. This stuff's really what's going to move it forward. This entire interview, like, does this move things forward for me? Does it do it for you? For me, it's not. I mean, from what he's teasing is that he may have the things that could move everything forward, but he hasn't put that out yet. Tough, okay? So, listen, if you're going to call for other people to come out, open kimono, as David Grush said. Go full open kimono. Show us what's going on, okay? Now, this kind of touches back to a little bit more of kind of what we did at the beginning. We were talking about what was the beginning one? What was the beginning one? It was Why Talk Now? Yeah, Why Talk Now? So this is like a little bit more of like a personal thing with him. Jeremy Corbell is going to ask him essentially, why should we believe you? Why? After everything that we've heard, after all the people before us that have grifted and lied, I mean, he's not saying this, but I'm adding this, okay? But by all the liars, the grifters, the charlatans, the hucksters, why you, my friend? Why you? Why should you be the one that we put the stock in, that you've got the answers, okay? So this is going to get more into the headspace of Matthew Brown. We're going to learn a little bit more of why he thinks we should believe it. That's enough preamble. Let's go.
Why should people believe you? I mean, I know you, I know what we've been through, but that's not public stuff to everybody, every step we've taken. Why should people believe what you're saying?
I was there. I saw it. I spent years researching it. If all that I'm consulting is passage material, then we are engaged in a massive deception against our own military and intelligence community.
So it's just trust me, bro. Because I was there. Because I seen it. Maybe you did, brother, but I can't go to the bank with that. I don't get any disclosure from that. We've had so many decades of stuff like that. That can't be the reason anymore. Not if we really want things to get down the road. Not if we really want to actually start trying to get to some answers. It can't just be, trust me, bro. I had a sighting. I think that there's stuff that's going on with this topic in reality. I do. I'd love to believe everything he's saying, okay? I do push back on the topic, though. I mean, look at the lower third. Pascagoula, Grays, Bob Lazar, you got the obelisk there. You got the AI guy, you got the Tic Tac, it says beware of aliens. Look, you can still have belief in a lot of this stuff, but push back. And that's the whole point of trying to I don't know. It's just it's why I am the way that I am. I think I come off as maybe even debunker or overly skeptical when it comes to some of this stuff. Like, how could you be this skeptical? How could you push back against this much and still have beliefs in this stuff? It's just because we've seen this and played and danced this dance so many times before that at some point in time we have to say enough is enough, man. I can't just believe you anymore, brother. Like, I can't. Especially when you're saying you have other bullets in the gun. When you have the opportunity for me to supposedly not just believe you anymore, that can't be the answer. It really can't. You know? Take the bullets out of the gun. You know? We don't want anybody to get hurt here. And just put the bullets on the table and let us take a look. Let's see. Let's blow the roof off this damn thing. You know? Blow the roof off. Blowing the roof off. Okay. Now, yeah, I guess the last three clips in total here. There's two more. Okay, there's two more clips. But I guess these last three in general are all kind of just like personal takes from him. And we get a little bit more into the mind of Matthew Brown. All right. Hope you guys have been enjoying this so far. Okay. We're getting this number 12 here.
They have an
This is called Who Are They? All right. What he's going to do in this clip, he's going to tell us a bit more about what his thoughts are on the phenomena itself. Who are they? I think he touches on a little bit about their interaction with us, what he thinks is going on. It's pretty interesting. I'll just go ahead and run the clip. We might have to pause in the middle and get a little bit more commentary for it.
have an agenda. There's different types. What are your philosophies on this? Like, who are the others? Why are they here? And you've touched upon it. I know we're kind of going.
And before he answers this, let me pause it really quick. Keep in mind, because I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, none of the stuff that's in those documents, that's in the report, excuse me, for the 12 pages, none of it kind of backs what he's about to say, from what I recall here. So it's interesting. Keep that in mind. We don't know where the hell he's getting this information from, or what his influence really is when it comes to this.
Back a little bit, but that is the big question. And I just wanted to separate so people understand your exposure and your personal conclusions.
So I have been exposed to no direct information on the anatomy, biology, intentions, culture.
He's been exposed to none of it.
politics.
Never came across those files?
Never came across those.
Never.
I think those are all some of the deepest secrets.
Right. They would be.
Get your grains of salt out. Okay. Even though I might agree with some of what he's saying. Can't prove it, but get your grains of salt out.
This is correct information.
What I have learned is that we live in a dream, a carefully constructed reality. We make use of a science that is tightly controlled and suppressed and distorted. I think we are left behind.
Humans.
I think normies, the normal humans,
Normies.
the people have been left behind. Us.
Mm-hmm.
People need to understand.
He's one of us, though, with the normies comment, ain't he? One of us. One of us.
That we might have freedom of speech, but that has been subverted. We do not have freedom of inquiry. We are blocked from learning what we need to know. Just in the public world, we are blocked from advancing in science. We are taught false science intentionally to prevent us from learning more. We live in the Matrix. It's just much more boring than the movie.
I think about Whistleblower.
Boy, I agree with him. Much more boring than the movie. That's no doubt about that. We live in the Matrix. I mean, sure, man. I mean, simulation theory is there, right? This is what he believes. It's just interesting to get that perspective from him. And, I had a clip that talked a little bit more about, at the beginning, his relationship to the UFO topic in the past and, how interested he was. I don't put too much stock into stuff like that. I don't care that, like, I understand the argument for, okay, if they believe in this stuff, aliens and everything, since they were younger, it's going to be just a complete bias when you're looking at the whole thing. Maybe, but I grew up around this stuff, and I don't think that I have a wild bias. I think I'm pretty fair when I commentate on this stuff. So I think he could still put those biases aside and still be pretty fair about it. It's there, though. I get it, but it's just still interesting to hear him say things like Matrix. I mean, these are stretches. They're stretches. Does it matter to you, though? Do these stretches, do these beliefs, does it call into question his credibility? For some people, I know it does. When Sarah Gam first came out, a lot of people talked about how, I think she was what's the name? I'm going to blank on the damn name of it now, but she's thought she's psychic, right? Psychic, thought she could speak to dead people, kind of a thing. If I'm remembering that correctly, don't kill me. Okay. That's what I'm trying to remember. And so a lot of people, tend to throw that out. I didn't do that personally, mainly because of the situation where, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent on her, but I mean, she was, in a position to where she could have seen videos from the sentient system and stuff like that. So I was willing to kind of put a lot of that aside, and because there could have been information that was there, right? Whether it's, you know, the video's there, if it's there, it's there, right? Her psychic experiences or whatever is not going to change the video. We can see the video, it is what it is. Okay, I digress, right? But yeah, for some people that does make a big difference. Tim says, what does that mean? Dude, I don't know, brother. I don't know. That we're essentially like a prison planet, kind of an idea, or maybe not a prison, but we're some kind of experiment. That we are just AI, that all of this is really just, you know, ones and zeros. That doesn't really make any difference. What happens in the long term. You know, it's it's just a simulation that we're just not in control of and we don't understand. And and I think he touches on it. I think he did a little bit right there, even like I'm just lost in my own thoughts. That we're like a resource. He might talk about it in the next clip if he didn't right there, but it's the resource. Kind of like in the Matrix, you know, where Neo, obviously, Keanu Reeves, when they pull him out of the Matrix, he wakes up in that all the goo, and he's all got the power cables all over him, and his energy is being used to power that Matrix, power that simulation, harvesting, you know, the life source to power it. And he kind of touches on that, and I guess that's really why he feels it's Matrix. Well, I mean, sure. I mean, I'd love to see some proof of that if we could get it. But it's interesting. You know, I'm not going to knock him for having an out there opinion on it. If he's just simply saying, "Hey, this is my opinion." If he's out there saying, "Hey, I've seen everything about it, and I know that this is for real what it is," that's a different story. But I mean, he's speculating on it. Okay. And the last clip is obviously the thumbnail. God is real. This is kind of the ending of the third episode. This is what they leave us with here. It's another interesting take from him. Once again, it kind of allows people to maybe round out a picture of who he is and his beliefs and what that could mean to your opinion on the entire document, the entire everything with this guy. Okay. This is 30 seconds long, and I think I gotta cut it a little bit short because of the music that hits at the end. He got me on that. I was gonna hit stop record, but they got me on it. Here it is. God is real.
Look, man, if you were to die tomorrow because of whatever reason, what do you want people to know right now? Like, what do you want people to know if you're just like fucking gone?
You're just fucking gone, dude.
You are not free. And this reality has far more to it than you have been allowed to believe. And God is real.
Okay. Now, when you look back at this, and I'm gonna mute the audio on it. Okay. Just watch his body language, man, when he gets into this part. Okay. And we're getting Corbell's beard here. He's all lined up. He's got the haircut. You know, he's ready to go. He's like, it's so funny too when he goes, "You're just fucking gone, bro." He gets really serious here, moves the jaw. He's nervous, but he's ready to go. He's serious, stern. He's telling it how it is. Very animated here, very jacked up. He's laying down the law. Okay, I don't know. It's interesting. Interesting takes. Interesting view of him. Look, like I said, there's probably a million other things that we could talk about. Obviously, the Kirkpatrick transcript. You know, he mentions hearing or reading a transcript between Rubio and Kirkpatrick, and supposedly Rubio says, "Hey, it's been 60 years, and there's this cover up, and that the or how does he say it? He says the executive branch has been running this for 60 years, and we don't know about it, and stuff like that." I mean, there's that. I was gonna put that in there, but you know, it's just speculation. I think I heard a guy in a space, I think it was Wogboss in a space last night, where he said that section that he talks about, that Matthew Brown talks about with Kirkpatrick and Rubio, it almost sounds kind of like a Wilson Davis Notes situation. But I thought that was a really interesting take. I was like, damn, you know, that's kind of an interesting way to look at it. So the Wogboss is there on that one. So shout out to Wogboss on that. Where are we at, man? We're at an hour and a half. That's the clips. I guess in closing, I mean, look, for me, there's a lot of holes to this story. There's a lot of connections for massive potential for circular reporting. There's massive openings for influence on this thing. Some of them you could argue that they're stretches. I get it. But this is the way that I take it. Until we get hard proof, these are just going to be stories. But if they're real and we're missing out and I'm missing out because I'm not taking it, well, I don't think that's on me. I really don't. All I know is what you show me. And what I'm being shown here is it's interesting. It's cool to read some of the stuff and go through it and hear these stories. I thought the interviews were a good listen. You know, were they, directed in certain parts, and were maybe details left out? It's very possible, but it seems like they did a pretty good job. Like I said, when I went back through and went through to clip everything, you notice, even though it's 3 parts and they're 45 minutes to an hour each part, they're lean. The interviews are lean, dude. You want to clip everything. And then you realize, well, shit, I could have just, and did a watch along, and it would have took 6 hours the way Experience's Space did. That's why his space took 6 hours, because he went through every single part. And so you're going to have to end up leaving things out. The other thing is I'm seeing in my notes with the God is real, I want to make a mention of. You know who else talked about that? I mean, people have talked about it a lot, but I think another connection that's interesting is that was Tom DeLonge's big theory too. He did an interview with what's his name? Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, in 2016, where he famously says God doesn't wear Birkenstocks, but he knows God's is real, and it's a force. It's a massive force that creates stars. And he talks about that whole idea that God is real. I'm not saying they have a connection, of course, but it's just interesting. When you look through everything, all the way down, you see some similarities when it comes to that for people that have been around here in the last 10, 12 years. That's a common theme, that there's something deeper to that. But I hope he's a nice, or I hope the best for Matthew Brown. He seems like a nice enough guy. I don't wish any bad on him, obviously. Just a lot of weird occurrences and things like that. Will you cover the Corbell accusation on Schellenberger and that Matt went to Schellenberger first? So from what I'm aware of is that what Corbell, and you might be able to, this was confusing to me, okay, and it still is a little bit, because from what I remember, Corbell was saying that he knew about Brown, and he knew about all of this prior to Schellenberger, if I'm correct. That was a big part, that Corbell had taken Matthew Brown around to these meetings at Congress and was showing him out. He had him like decked out in gear, like he was a camera guy, and he was bringing him in, and that was the whole deal. And that he had obviously met with Schellenberger, but I feel like, if I remember right, Corbell was supposed to be like first in the scene doing the mostest, right? Had seen what I think he said he's seen a 25-page document. There's a bigger version of the document that's there. Maybe I had a clip of that. I don't know. Maybe I left that out. But yeah, I mean, we learned that, at least from Matthew Brown, is saying that, hey, nah, man. I mean, I was brought to Corbell through Grush. Well, Schellenberger was really at the root of the whole thing. He was really at the root, the first real reach out that Matthew Brown did, which I believe is contradictory to the story that Corbell has kind of been pushing. I think Danny Sheehan said that he knew about this prior. I think Sheehan was involved with that too, making kind of claims like that. That's what I took from it, Tim. So we do get that clarification on it, which is interesting. Which Corbell doesn't really like mention too much of that whole process. I mean, sure, he'd like to probably forget about. I guess I can go over to this screen for this. I bet you he'd probably like to forget about that 2B thing sometimes, man. I mean, even though it's entertainment and it got a lot of views, I'm sure he made some money on it. It was kind of an embarrassing gig for him at the end of the day. What are we at, an hour and a half? Maybe I'll go through the news and something else. Maybe we'll talk about the news in the space or something like that. I should probably just keep this tight on Matthew Brown and the Immaculate Constellation document. Like I said, you want to include everything, but you can't. You really, really can't. Any other thing here anybody wants to add? Thank you for coming, Bernie, Puck, Tim, obviously, for hanging out. Look, I know I haven't done a show on this channel for a long time. I don't know how often I'll do these, man. There's just moments in time where, like I said this at the beginning of the show, that I just would rather jump on and show some clips and give some more context to what I'm saying. And I thought X Spaces were going to allow me to do that more, but they just don't, from the way that they're kind of broken right now. And there's just going to be these times where it needs it. Like, I don't know. I like to give my opinion, but I really like to be like, that's why, you know. I don't want to just talk out of my ass, bro. That sucks. Everybody can do that. And I want to do a little bit something different when it comes to that. So let me see here. Let me put a little extra. Maybe I'll do a space on the rest of the news. I have bookmarks. We're just going to keep it tight. All right. Get it right. Get it tight. What did he say? Found you, Miss New Booty. Okay. Ooh. A little exit music here. All right. So, hey, thanks for coming. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a little bit. I hope I've been able to give you something to chew on. Like I said, whether or not you agree with it, it's up to you. Mileage is always going to vary when this comes to this topic because we don't have full proof. We don't know. All we can do is speculate. All right. So follow on Twitter. Like, share, subscribe. The Twitter's down below. Once again, Immaculate Constellation report is down below, as well as the 3 parts to Jeremy Corbell's episodes. If you want to go back and rewatch it, it's there. Maybe you find some better clips. Maybe you find something that I left out. Either way, thanks for coming. We'll see you out there in Twitter land. Have a good rest of your Saturday. Thanks, and guys, see ya.